Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping in today. I have a new layout to share for Pinkfresh Studio, and this is the new Happy Blooms collection. This is my first layout using this collection. I just opened it and I'm thumbing through some of the papers. This is perfect for springtime. Lots of pinks, yellows, blues, different shades of green, beautiful flowers, all kinds of different patterns and sentiments. And this paper just kind of jumped out at me, and I have this photo. I've recently scrapped this photo. I will admit that on a layout recently, but I scrapped it smaller with two other similar pictures, and I had this one in a bigger size, and it just matched this collection perfectly. So I decided to scrap it anyway. And I really love this floral paper, but I didn't want to use the entire piece. I wanted to do just kind of half of it and kind of create a half pattern paper, half cardstock layout. At least that's how my original train of thought was going. So I just tore the left side of the paper off, and then I'm going to glue it onto a sheet of textured white cardstock and go from there. I think these flowers are really pretty. I like all the colors. Just, you know, it's perfect for spring, like I said earlier. And so I'm going to play on the yellow here. Now I'm going to go ahead and coat most of the white area with some clear gesso because I do want to do some mixed media on the background. And the gesso is just sort of a primer. It's going to protect the paper and let me do some mixed media on top of it before the paint dries and soaks right through the page. I'm going to do some fussy cutting. I'm going to take the other half of the paper and then just cut out some of the flowers because I think I want to add some basically die cut flowers around the edge of the photo. And there is an actual pack of floral die cuts, but I just did a couple of fussy cuts there. This is the photo, like I was saying. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of tissue paper behind it to start with the layering process. I'm not quite sure what else I'm going to do yet. We're just going to kind of go through everything and see what's what. I did get this 6x6 paper pad, and as you can see, all the papers are double-sided, which are awesome. So I'm going to go through and pick out some of these papers to layer behind the photo. Sometimes I layer pattern papers behind the photo and sometimes I don't. In this case, I'm going to, because the floral paper, I would consider it kind of busy because there's a lot of colors, a lot of flowers, and the photo is going to sort of overlap some of those flowers. And so in my mind, I like to have the photo kind of separated from anything busy on the background, and layering is perfect for that. And so I tried to pick at least two of the papers that kind of read as solid colors. So the pink one and the blue one, even though they're pattern papers, they're mostly just one color. And then that really tiny floral piece is the one I'm going to put in the middle. So I'm going to have the pink layer, the floral layer, and then that blue layer. And these layers are going to help kind of separate the photo from the florals on the background and just enable it to stand out a little bit more, because I never want the photo to get lost in a busy pattern paper background. I always want it to stand out. So I felt like adding some papers that read as solid colors would help the photo to just be more visible. I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive foam behind the photo, and this is just going to pop it up off the page a little bit and give it a little bit of height, because I love to add layers kind of on top of the photo, in between the layers, underneath it, and it just gives some really fun dimension and interest to the page. And then I'm going to start to play around with all these little pieces. Still not sure what I'm going to do with all those flowers yet, but I do want to kind of curl up the edge of this torn paper here, just because I love that effect. It creates awesome dimension and texture, again, which are two of my favorite things, and I like that. So now I'm going to do some mixed media on the background, and I'm going to use the little mini ink cubes, all from Pinkfresh Studio. I'm going to start with the yellow color here. This one is called Sweet Mustard, and then I'm going to add in a little bit of peach fuzz on top of it. And since I used the gesso, I'm able to basically turn this into watercolor. All I'm doing is getting a wet brush and then dabbing it on top of the ink, and it turns it to liquid, and you're able to kind of move it around the page. And the key to this technique being successful is the gesso, because it enables the ink to kind of sit on top of the paper before it dries, in a sense. And so that is what allows the water to kind of activate it, because if you don't use gesso, it's going to immediately stay exactly like it looks when the ink pad hits the paper. That's how it's going to stay. It's very difficult to get it to liquefy, so to speak. So yeah, the gesso is key in this technique. That pink color that I used is called Coral Reef, and then I added a little bit more of the peach fuzz down at the bottom. And this layout actually doesn't have a whole lot of mixed media. I just wanted enough kind of around the photo there. And I do add some more as I go, as I bring the photo back on top of it. But I leave a lot of white space on this layout, and you'll just kind of see how it evolves as I go. But I intended on doing more mixed media, but the more I worked with it and the more things that I added to the page, I just felt like it wasn't necessarily needed, you know. And I'm a lover of mixed media, and I love to just go all out. But sometimes I feel like certain layouts just don't need a whole lot, you know, and I have to restrain myself because, you know, I love getting crazy on a background. But since this layout has basically half of it with that really pretty floral paper, I kind of wanted to leave that alone, you know. I wanted to feature that and kind of just add other things to the right side of it without getting too crazy. All right, so the background part is pretty much done. I did try to do this, and I think sometimes this works and sometimes I don't really think it even matters. But in my mind, I was thinking that if I blended out a little bit of the flowers on the left side of the photo, that it would make the photo stand out a little bit more. And it kind of does, but I felt like I could have skipped this step and it really wouldn't have made a difference, because when I use pattern paper on, you know, whatever layout I'm making, and I have the photo on top of that pattern paper, I like to use white gesso like this with my fingers to kind of blend out some of the pattern right around the edges of the photo, because it just kind of helps the photo to stand out. But in this case, I felt like it kind of did, but it wasn't a necessary step, so I just kind of said, okay, that's not really necessary. And in the end, it doesn't really matter. But I do kind of continue to work on the pink on the side there of the photo, because I am going to add some stuff to the side of the photo, and I don't want all of that ink to get covered up. So kind of play with it as I go. I have gone through the ephemera die cuts. I've got a couple here of those flowers that I fussy cut. I'm going to fill these in right above the photo there to fill in that white open space of the pattern paper, so it's just, it continues on with the whole solid flowers on the whole paper. And I'm going to pop those up with some adhesive foam just because I felt like it, and I like how that looks. So now that background paper, because if you remember the background paper, it's got the white space in the middle, so I covered up the rest of that little white open space with more flowers. And then I'm going to cut this one from another pattern paper. It's a bit larger, and I was looking for something yellow, kind of like a solid color yellow. So I'm going to tuck that in over to the left, and that's going to pull from her shirt. And that's the main reason why I use this photo. Like I said, even though I've already scrapped it in a smaller form, it's just the yellow shirt. Just as soon as I saw it with this pattern paper, I thought, yeah, that's the perfect photo. I'm going to use a floral die cut and a puffy sticker to create a little cluster on the upper right area, and that's a little puffy sticker that says "Love Our Life." And then try to work in some of those other fussy cut flowers over to the right. I don't want to go, you know, so flower crazy that it's just flower overload, but I could not help myself because they're just all so cute and they all look great together. And I don't even think I opened the actual floral die cut pack yet. So these are all just from the pattern paper. or maybe the one on the right. I think that one might have come from the floral die cuts. I think, you know what? I think that one did. I did trim off the white border because the borders around the die cuts, there's usually this white thick border. I did trim that off, but yeah, everything else I cut from paper. This is the sticker sheet, the cardstock stickers. I'm going through that. I'm going to cut a couple of pieces to try out on the layout and see if I like those. And I'm looking for basically anything in any of the colors that, you know, are on this page already. So I've got a lot to choose from there. I was so happy to find in my thread stash that I had a spool of that periwinkle bluish purple color. So I'm going to use some of that color thread over to the right. And I think that was the perfect color because I've got pink, I've got green, I've got yellow. And that was the one color that I wanted to kind of bring over to that side. And so that was perfect. And that adds some awesome texture and little pop of color. And then I do add some pink over to the left. And this thread isn't very visible because it's on top of the pattern paper. And that's another thing you have to be careful with when you've got a busy pattern paper, is adding things on top of it. Sometimes you can't even see it because of the busyness of the paper. So it's just very subtle, that pink thread. All right, so here's where I decided to add something over to the right side. I felt like it was just too open and too white and too plain. So I decided to add a strip of torn paper, and I went with that really pretty bluish color. And it's the same paper that I used as the layer behind the photo. It's just in the 12 by 12 size. So I just kind of ripped and tore it, and then I'm using my edge distressor there to kind of ruffle up the edges. I want it to look crooked. I want it to look torn, to kind of match the first paper that I tore. Then I'm going to go ahead and glue that down, and I'm very glad that I did this. I feel like it just finishes off the page, and it still has plenty of white open space, but I feel like this blue strip just sort of helps draw your eye to the photo more rather than the way it was when it was just solid white. I feel like there was just a lot of white, and maybe it's because there's a lot of white in the background of the flower paper. I don't know. I just felt like adding that blue just helps bring all the colors together, and it helps the photos stand out a little bit more, I think. I'm still going to do the cluster with the puffy sticker and that flower die cut, but I'm going to pop it up. So I'm going to add some adhesive foam behind that. So I think dimension just makes the layout sometime. I don't know. I don't think I can ever just glue everything flat anymore. After discovering adhesive foam, I use it all the time, and I just think it makes a big difference. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow thread behind that. And that's a nice light color that I haven't used yet as far as thread goes, and I feel like it kind of brings a pop of that color to that area of the page. I'm going to go ahead and glue that down, and then I'm going to start to glue down pretty much everything else that is still loose. I'm going to add that little white die cut flower on top of the photo there, just on the upper right hand corner. I didn't want to put too much on top of the photo there. Sometimes I'll layer something bigger on top of a photo. It just always depends on the photo and how much space I have in the photo. I never want to put something over someone's face or over something important in the photo. I'm not sure where I ran off to. Oh, there I am. I'm using Scotch tacky glue in the fine liner bottle there. I love that glue. It works wonderful. I've used it for years, and it's always worked like a charm. Okay, so for the title, I didn't want to use anything really big because I feel like all of the big things have already been done on the layout, and so now I'm looking for smaller things. So I wanted to go pretty small with the title, so I'm going to fussy cut this little sentiment from this pattern paper that says, "You are my everything," and it's the perfect size. There's a lot of sentiments on that pattern paper that can be used for small titles. I mean, there are a ton, but there's also 2 packs of puffy alpha stickers in this collection. You get a small pack of mini letters that are multicolored, and then you get a larger pack of green. So there are no shortages for title options. I decided to add a little butterfly from the die cut pack because, you know, this just screams spring to me, and butterflies are definitely a part of spring. So I'm going to put that up at the top there and then add some more thread. This is just a little subtle addition of thread here. There's going to be things on top of it, so you're just going to be able to see a little bit of it kind of peeking from underneath that pink flower, because I'm going to put the title piece kind of on top of it and then another little sticker underneath that. I did add a green sticker above the photo there. That's kind of like that lime green, leafy green color. And then with this sticker, I'm going to pop it up because some things I like to put flat. I put the You Are My Everything flat because I tucked it up underneath the photo. So it's flat, and then this little piece here is popped up, and you can kind of see the yellow thread. There are the multicolored mini alphas that I was talking about. I'm going to put the word love right above the little title there, but I'm only going to use that leafy lime green color just because I wanted a pop of that color right there. And you know, love is always a word you could probably use on every layout and it worked great, and it's small and all the letters were there in that color. So I'm going to add that there and then continue to work on this little cluster down at the bottom where I'm going to add a little puffy sticker also that says My Happy Place. And here's what I've got so far. You can see all the different layers and textures and how some of the things kind of curl up off the page. I love that about leaves and flowers and butterflies. They're just meant for dimension. So awesome. I did pull out one of the liquid watercolors. This one is sky blue, to add some of that aqua color splatters. And don't forget that there are only a few of the watercolors left in the Pinkfresh store. They're on clearance, so once they're gone, they are gone. I believe this color is still available, the sky blue. It's actually my favorite of all the colors. So I'm just using a little bit of that with a brush to add some splatters, and these are going to be really light and subtle, and that's the look I was going for. Kind of like the color of the butterfly, and then some of the leaves in the flowers are that color. And now we're going to add some gold because gold is amazing. And to do that, this is just one way I like to add gold, and that is just to use some metallic gold craft paint. This is Martha Stewart. I've had it for a long time. I just squirt a little bit of it on my desk and water it down so it's a little thinner, and do the same thing that I did with the watercolors, just splatter it down. And this is just going to add a little pop of color, a little bit of shine and shimmer to the layout, which I love. And you can do this technique with any acrylic paint. Just add a little bit of it, water it down, and basically turn it into watercolor. You can turn anything into watercolor if you get creative enough. I let everything dry, and then I did some machine stitching. I created a little trail from the butterfly with white thread, and then I stitched through love and a little bit of the title there. And it's very subtle, but just, again, another little way to add texture and some detail to the page. And then we're almost done. I'm going to add my journaling down at the bottom. I use my T-square ruler for lines, and then I'm going to use my pink. That's not pink, that's gold. Hello. I never use pink for journaling. A gold pen. But anyway, that's the final layout. I love how this turned out. I'm so glad I added that blue strip to the right. I feel like it just finishes everything off. But I love that floral paper and all of these pretty colors. And now you can see why I just did a little bit of the mixed media. I feel like it's just enough to enhance the photo and, you know, give the effect of a messy background, but there's still enough open white space to kind of keep the calm against the color and the patterns and everything going on. But please let me know if you have any questions. I took a lot of close-ups here of all the details. I'm going to link everything that I used down below. I believe Friday the 21st coming up is when you can get this collection in the Pinkfresh Studios store, so be on the lookout for that. So yeah, it's really pretty, it's beautiful, I love it, and I think you can create some really pretty things with it. So I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you have a great week.